I'm James Barfield with Your Urban Connection. And remember, this is the station that is often imitated, but is never duplicated. And I want to talk about the question that's been asked in a recent poll. Is it important to have a Black woman on the Supreme Court? Now, before I answer that, I want to say I don't recall that question being asked when Ronald Reagan appointed Sandra O'Day O'Connor to the Supreme Court. And I don't recall that question being asked when Justice Sotomayor was appointed to the Supreme Court. And I certainly don't remember that question being asked when Justice Barrett was recently appointed to the Supreme Court. So why, all of a sudden, when we're talking about the possibility of a Black woman being appointed to the Supreme Court, we have to conduct a poll and ask the question, is it important for a Black woman to be sitting on the Supreme Court? The answer is, yes, it's important. Now, let me say this. The respondents to this poll, the responses they got were as one would expect. And here's how it went. 63% of African Americans or Black people say it is very or extremely important. It's important to them personally that an African American woman sits on the Supreme Court. Compare that to 21% of white respondents and 33% of Hispanic respondents. Now, let me say this. I expect the white respondents to say that. After all, they have white men and white women on the Supreme Court sitting already. The Hispanics, I expect the same. They have a member of their ethnic group sitting on the Supreme Court. The Blacks, however, do not have that privilege and never have had. But all of a sudden, this question has to be asked. Well, let me just tell you, I've always been under the impression that the president had the right and the authority to nominate who he wanted to sit on the Supreme Court. After all of the other presidents before him, with the exception of Barack Obama, have picked the nominee of their choosing to sit on the Supreme Court. Some of them even had litmus tests, as in the case of our most recent president, DJT. Okay, I'm not gonna call his name. His litmus test was they had to be anti-abortion. That's the only way they would get on the Supreme Court under his term. They had to be anti-abortion. It's a litmus test. Biden has set no such litmus test. Biden made a commitment during his campaign that if he were elected, he would appoint a Black woman. Knowing that, he still won the majority of the votes. So now that he's in office, it's come time for him to pay the debt that he made. So why all the confusion? Why all the rigor? Why all the questions? He's picking a female who is Black, and out of the top 3 that I know of, they all would make better Supreme Court justices than some of those that are sitting on the bench now. And I'm not just talking about females, I'm talking about males as well. You know, I remember the time that after Clarence Thomas was appointed, for the first 10 years of his term, he never even opened his mouth. Heck, I didn't even know he could talk. He sat there like a stump on a log and absorbed, I assume he absorbed, and he never asked one single question, never made one single statement for the first 10 years. So all of these women that are being considered, at least the top three, have more to offer and bring more to the table than did Clarence Thomas and Mr. Kavanaugh and Alito and maybe a couple of others. So let's quit with the jokes and let's quit with the questions and let's get on with the business of doing what is long overdue. And that is to nominate a woman who is African American to the Supreme Court. The president, like I said, he made a campaign commitment and he is just fulfilling that commitment. So when dumb, ignorant senators like John Kennedy of Louisiana attempts to make a joke by saying he wants someone that can read a law book and not a J. Crew catalog, I say this, Mr. Kennedy, you are a terrible senator and an absolute lousy comedian. So keep the jokes to yourself. Now, when I look at the three people that I think are probably the top three front runners in terms of being sitting on that bench, one of the three, the president to this date has not named who his nominee will be. But of the three that he is considering, all of them have high qualifications or highly regarded, have experience sitting on benches as judges. And in my opinion, given the opportunity, any one of the three would be, I think, admirable in that position as Supreme Court Justice. Now, when we stop and think that the first Black on the Supreme Court, Thurgood Marshall, he faced the same kind of resistance, but he turned out to be one of the smartest judges on the bench. And his replacement, the only credentials that he brought was the mere fact that he was a conservative Republican. And I will tell you that if any one of these three women were Republicans, the fact that they're Black would have no importance whatsoever. None. But the mere fact that they are Democrats, we have to ask all these questions. We have to have someone like Ted Cruz to suggest that it is an embarrassment to nominate a Black woman to the Supreme Court. No, Senator Cruz, the embarrassment is you. You as a sitting senator in the United States Senate. That's what is the embarrassment. So it's long overdue. It's about time. And even the leader of the Republican Party, Mitch McConnell, has said he doesn't see a problem with it. He doesn't think it's inappropriate for the president to nominate a woman of color. That's his choice. That's his privilege. I mean, I don't really care what position that Mr. Biden, President Biden, or any other Democrat wants to appoint a person of color, the Republicans always have some objection to it, for the most part. There are a few, 3 or 4, okay? We'll see how many Republicans vote for whoever the nominee is that Mr. Biden selects and nominates. But for the most part, the Republican white male-dominated Senate and House of Representatives will gladly find some excuse to reject the president's nominee. It'll happen. Watch and see. And I think they're going to have to suck it up and live with it. Because I'm of the opinion that this country, regardless of what this poll says, this country is ready and willing to accept a Black female with a seat on the Supreme Court. And sooner rather than later. For your Urban Connection, I'm James Barfield.